Hello, my name is Haddock with the West Atlanta Watershed Alliance.
And I'm Jennifer Arnold with Reciprocity Consulting.
Why focus on race? We understand that race is the strongest predictor in terms of accessing critical water infrastructure and reducing flooding. Without that intentional focus on anti-racism and practices, reductions in inequity on the basis of income, disability status are often intensified by racial disparities.
So even though you can make progress on the basis of income, for example, those gains are going to be seen among certain racial groups, as opposed to especially Black Americans and Native Americans. And race and economic status are deeply entwined. If you think about race and our economic systems over the history of this country, economic status is also a strong predictor of access to water infrastructure and resilience to flooding. But because of these two factors intertwined, people of color are disproportionately impacted by poverty. And here in the photo, we show a picture of, the separated water fountains for white people or people of color, and how those infrastructure, those investments were vastly different for different groups. And we see the residual impacts of that even today in infrastructure in our communities.
Yes. We often characterize the containers we create for our conversations as brave spaces. And here are a few bullets, a few talking points that underscore, what we mean by existing in this brave space or developing this brave space. We make space or take this space to share authentically and listen to understand. We can express ourselves through the use of oops and outs and oops. We want to replace judgment with awe and wonder. Expect discomfort is a foundational one that we often have to re-emphasize. We ask each other and ourselves to check in with our emotions, to reflect on our privileges, and to nurture the relationships.
Sometimes people quickly refer to this as a safe space, but we emphasize there are no safe spaces. Things that are said or shared or learned in these spaces can impact relationships or actions outside of the space. But we encourage with these nurturing relationships and learning together through oops and ouch as an example. If something comes out of your mouth and as you're saying it, you realize that might have an impact on somebody, then you can just right there say, oops, I just realized maybe I should have been more thoughtful, or it maybe came out the wrong way. And that if somebody says something that steps on your toes, or maybe you can see it impacted somebody else, to just say, ouch, I just noticed when you said this, it could come across like this or have this impact. And that's really what we're talking about in terms of this brave space. Nobody's going to do it perfectly. If we only wait until we know exactly what to do, we won't actually advance the work. So we're asking folks to be brave. We also want to recognize, as we're talking about race, race is an artificial construct, and it's an oversimplification of who we are as people. So that's part of the discomfort. So there are times where it's really helpful to talk about white people versus people of color, Black people, Indigenous people, and yet there's so much diversity within any of those groups, and there's deep humanity within each one of us. So it's really the art of holding these complex ideas to talk about the simplification and then be ready to go deeper and respect each other as people. And just to say that these conversations will feel really differently depending on your racial identity and your experience, and to be thoughtful about that, I guess that's reflecting on your privilege as we have these conversations.
Thank you.